Heart first leadership isn't what you say, it's how you show up, how you regulate, how you communicate, and how you execute when it matters most. We are Heidi and Ryan Sawyer, and you are listening to the Heart First Leadership Podcast.
Welcome back to the show. We are going to dive into a topic that I think is as important as anything out there when it comes to understanding, exploring, and I'd say optimizing our human experience. We're going to discuss the F word, failure.
I thought that was forgiveness.
The F word, failure. So yeah, this is the big one, right? So people, I believe, here's the problem. Let me state the problem, and then we'll dive into the conversation about failure. Okay. I think the problem is that we fear we don't understand, number one. And when you ask somebody a very simple question, like, what's your number one fear? Right. I mean, they might say public speaking, they might say, some sort of death or whatever. But at the end of the day, what people come down to, it boils down to they're afraid of failing. So then my next question becomes, okay, define failure. Because if we're afraid of something, we better sure understand what that thing is so we can learn how to optimize our performance, our potential, our experience. Let's figure out how to integrate that fear, right?
I don't think failure is the thing that people are most afraid of. I think it's the thing that stops people the most from taking action and from going for their goals and dreams. I think failure is the thing that robs us of this idea of failure, or this fear of failure is what robs us of showing up as our highest and best selves and making the impact that we're all here to make, whatever that is for you individually. I think there's a lot of things that people are afraid of. I think failure is up there with one of the top fears, but it is for sure the number one fear that stops us from taking action.
So one of the definitions of failure, if you were to look it up, I always do this whenever I'm creating content. I always well, let's start with Google.
Right. Let's see what they say.
Let's see what Google says. They know everything. So we Googled it. The definition of failure is the lack of success or the inability to meet an expectation. Okay. So then I go, all right, well then what's the expectation? Because that's not an objective thing, right?
Yeah.
That's subjective.
Where's the expectation coming from?
Okay, there you go.
Yeah.
Where does the expectation come from? Is it from out there, society, right? Parents, coaches? Let's first make sure that we know what the expectation is and where it's coming from. Okay. So that's the first piece. So let's talk about a couple of typical answers when people think of failure, they didn't reach a certain goal, like a business failed, the end of a relationship, maybe a divorce or things, something like that. That's a failure of the marriage. Coming up short, not winning a game, that would be considered failure. Right. So here is fundamentally, I think, what we have to begin to explore is that, we know, we've talked about this before, that everything in one way, shape, or form, depending on how you look at it, your lens that you're looking through is either going to be for you or it's going to be against you. And that's your choice.
Right. Depending on which way you're choosing to see it.
Depending on which way what lens you're looking through, from what perspective or plateau you're looking at the problem, the circumstance.
Right.
The
quote unquote failure.
The quote unquote, the obstacle, the failure, the falling short. Right. So one of the basic definitions that I like to encourage people to explore when it comes to failure is that legitimately, if you just aren't willing to learn what there is to learn, the lesson or the gift there is to receive from the circumstance. And when you remove all of the story, right, then it's like, okay, we lost the game. We failed. Okay, no, you lost the game. You didn't have enough points on the board to win the game at the end, right? I remember as a collegiate football coach, there is no question that we learned more about ourselves as a team, and we took a harder look at how we could get better when we treated every single game like we lost, right? And so the games we did actually lose lent towards us, looking harder in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And the most successful team I was ever a part of, like, we kept that in front of mind every week, that let's look at this as if we lost. That was one of the best things we did that season.
Mm-hmm.
In the season that we won the national championship. Like, we legitimately took it on as like, okay, what can we learn from this?
Yeah,
regardless. Most people don't stop to learn unless they fall short, right? Mm-hmm. Unless it didn't turn out the way they wanted, right? So the only way to fail is to not learn from your circumstance, right? Because even I would say, like, oh, quitting is failing. Well, okay, let's have this conversation then. If you think quitting is failing, then a child who's on a sports team where that sport team is not treating him in a good way, or that coach is not a positive influence on him, he should just stick it out for the whole season, even though it's not a positive impact on his life.
Mm-hmm.
I believe there's an incredible power in someone saying this environment is not for me, and being able to shift, change course, correct, and say that I'm going to walk away from this environment and go find the environment that does serve me. So
a win for being able to meet your own needs and going, all right, what I wanted to get out of this experience, I'm not getting here. And so where else can I go to fulfill that? And what can I take from something that maybe was a negative experience and learn something from it, and learn something about, a lot of times when we quote unquote fail, or we have something not work out the way that we had hoped to, we have this opportunity to learn also what we don't want. If a relationship fails, sometimes that's an opportunity to learn what you do not want in a partner. And then you get more clarity around what you do want going into the next relationship. So it is an opportunity to learn if you see it as such. That's exactly, I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
You have to be seen through that lens of opportunity and not seeing the circumstances against you.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So if you listen to enough of our episodes here on this podcast, or if you're involved in the work that we do, you know that a lot of times I bring things back to a foundational component of our basic human needs. How does this play into, why is failure such a strong fear and circuitry and experience in our human experience, right? So if you bring it back to the fact that we are tribal creatures, right? And that we are meant to be connected, and we're better when we're together. This would mean that if you bring it back to that basic component, like, fear of failure is actually fear of being embarrassed, right? Because if I fall short, then I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
And then if I'm not good enough, I'm going to be embarrassed. And if I'm embarrassed and or rejected by my tribe, I'm going to be potentially kicked out of my tribe. And survival out there in the world without my people, without my tribe, without my family, whatever that is, right, is less likely. So my survival part of my brain creates narrative and stories, right, that are in alignment with saying, like, well, don't be embarrassed. So don't even try. So that's where people fail, right?
Right.
So that's the other way that I would define failure, is not even trying.
Yeah. So one was not receiving the lesson in the failure, in not accomplishing the goal or meeting the expectation, not receiving the lesson in that. And then two was, you don't even try. You say, I'm not willing to face the emotional discomfort, because that's what it is. It's just uncomfortable emotion that we're avoiding. So I'm not willing to face that emotional discomfort. So I'm not even going to try.
Yeah.
Because there's the potential of failing, AKA learning in this situation.
Yeah. Because if I quote unquote fail, then I'm going to be embarrassed and or rejected. Then it's going to trigger some sense of worthlessness, inadequacy, not being good enough. Right. And that's going to lead towards now disappointment or regret or even shame.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And so it's this internal experience and resistance. Say, I would rather avoid doing my best. Right.
Yeah.
And I go back to, I'm not going to obviously name who, but there was a player who I coached years ago that was incredibly talented. And I remember this popping up for him. And I remember sitting down and having a long conversation with him at one point and saying, why don't you just give it everything you got, man?
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I could recognize that, I don't know if him and I came to this conclusion or I challenged him on this idea, but it legitimately was, well, what if I give everything I got and I still don't succeed? I would rather, and I think this is for all of us.
We can all relate to that feeling.
All right.
Yeah.
I would rather give 80% and then have the excuse of saying, well, I didn't really go all in. So if I would have probably been successful. So this gives me an out.
Ooh, if you didn't properly, prepare yourself with your nutrition and your hydration and your sleep and all the things before game day, then you could have this fallback of saying, well, I went to bed late.
Yeah.
Or I wasn't hydrated.
Right. Or in business, you can blame it on the economy. Yeah. You can blame it on, I couldn't find the right employees. Or I could blame it on, well, that person, didn't do this or that person didn't do that. And all of that is just, again, there's a level of avoidance because you're avoiding the shame. You're avoiding the guilt or the rejection from your tribe. Right.
Yeah.
And so it's a neural circuitry conversation. It's a neuroscience. It's a survival mechanism. Right. So this is why it's so incredibly important to man, I'm saying 95% of what's going on in your head, you don't need to give any attention to because it's there trying to just conserve energy and keep you safe. Right. In all reality, your psychological safety comes from you going all in, giving yourself an opportunity to learn the lessons that need to be learned so you can grow and evolve and you can be more irreplaceable and significant within your tribe, therefore creating a greater sense of psychological safety.
Right. It is exactly the opposite of what our mind is trying to tell us is the truth.
And how many times is that the case?
Oh, so many times. I can think of so many things throughout my life that I didn't do or I didn't try because I was afraid that I would, quote unquote, fail. And times where I didn't go all in, I didn't give it my all. I can completely relate to that. Because if I did and then I still wasn't good enough, oh man, that touches every inadequacy within us as a human being. And I think that this also goes, I'm always bringing it back to the relational component because our life is about relationship, especially the relationship we have with ourselves. But what makes life beautiful is the relationships we have with other people. And, I think about a relationship and someone not showing up as their authentic self or not going all in or not opening their heart and taking those, metaphorical walls down and letting somebody in because they're afraid, what if I go all in? What if I show up fully and I'm rejected? Or
what the relationship doesn't work out. What does that mean? What does it mean work out? That means that you're going to be together for every last breath you ever take?
Well, or is the relationship working out? Two people continuing to wear the masks that they were wearing when they started in the relationship. Right. And it's still not fulfilling the deeper desire that you have as a human being to connect with someone on a true soul level. So we can hold ourselves back from so many experiences because of a fear of failure. And it can actually be in many cases, in most cases, holding you back from the thing that you want the most, which is true connection and to actually be seen fully by another person. So I can completely relate to that because I've been in that place and it's a completely different experience to start to realize that you can start showing up. You can start really putting your all into something, into a relationship, into a business, into anything that you put your mind to, really. And even if it doesn't meet whatever expectation you had in your mind, you're still going to learn from it and you're still going to grow. And that's a really beautiful thing because it allows you to continue to step into that discomfort and to do what I call rip the Band-Aid, right? Just try something, do something, and then realize I didn't die. I'm okay.
Well, what if we make that the expectation?
Just to do something.
Well, to do something. Sure,
just do something.
Just do something. Come on, just do something. No, the what if the expectation was, I heard two things you said there. And number one was that I'm going to lean into the experience so I grow, right? If I'm process oriented versus result driven, then I am going to focus on who I become in the process of trying to win the game. Or trying to win at life, or trying to make a relationship work, right? It's about who I have to become to make that possible. Whether or not I achieve the actual outcome that's desired, the result is what you wanted to happen, which is you grew.
Yeah. And there's always a new set of skills that comes with every time we step out and we do that. So if my goal is to be more open and more vulnerable in my relationship and more real with my partner, and I flex that muscle and I start practicing that, and that other person is uncomfortable and maybe it doesn't work out. Well, I just learned what it feels like to step out and be vulnerable and open with someone. What a great set of skills to take into my next relationship.
Yeah. And relationship is with people, with life, with business, with career, with yourself, partners, whatever. It's kids. All interconnected back to you and what you're making that thing mean if it doesn't, quote unquote, work out to societal norms of whatever that may look like. So to not necessarily like completely change the conversation, but to add to it is everything is based upon, and our human experience is based upon principle. Yeah. Principle is through line in everything doesn't change, right? It's immutable. Law, universal law that governs our lives. If failure was a principle of life, meaning that you actually had to like fail to succeed. Oh, you hear this a lot. You got to fail to succeed. Right. No, you have to grow to succeed. You have to experience to succeed. Right. If it was a law, it would show up in nature. So here's my question to you. If you're resisting this conversation, like, oh yeah, but no, failure is still, it's good. Failure's good. Like, no, I hear learning from life experience is what's good. Let's change the verbiage because we hear this word failure and it makes people clam up. So let's just remove it from our conversations and let's say, we are going to step out. We're going to experience. We're going to create a version of ourselves. We're going to go test that pattern. If we come up short, we're going to recognize there's more room to be done. That's going to allow for me to know, number one, that the expectation is my growth. Number two is if I get to the other side of something and I'm not dead, like you said, I'm giving my brain the reference that this disturbance, this discomfort, this emotional, physical discomfort, whatever it is, didn't kill me. Right. And that's resilience. That is resilience. That is a definition of resilience, is to be able to rupture and repair and to recognize that now you're giving your brain and your body the information and the trail marker that says life was hard. I didn't get what I wanted. Yeah. And I'm still okay. So when my kids don't get what they want, I'm like, good. Right. Because now they have to go through that. I'm disappointed. And then I'm still going to shift my attention, whether it be being able to go to a birthday party or what, I don't care what it is. Like I love to have my kids have everything they want and need. And I just as much love it when they don't get it, because then they have to go through that rupture and repair. So here's my question to you. I don't know if I asked it yet. I was on a bit of a roll. Where do you see it in nature? Show me where nature fails, where water doesn't flow.
We are all leaders. If you're ready to stop waiting and start impacting your environment in a powerful way, we want to connect with you. Click the Book Now link in the show notes to book a call with a Heart First coach and discover what Heart First leadership can look like in your life and in your environment. Now back to the show. Yeah. Nature never fails because it's always turning and it's always evolving into the next thing. So if a plant or a tree dies, it's becoming now nutrients for soil, for the new growth, for the expansion in a different direction, for something more resilient to grow in its place. Say I planted something out in the yard and it didn't do well in that space. Maybe it was a little too much sun or not quite the right environment for that plant. that plant dies and I leave it there, it becomes nutrients for the next thing that grows that is more resilient for the environment that it's in. So you could also say that when you're experiencing failure or redirection, right?
I love that word.
You've heard that saying, rejection is it's not something to be afraid of. It's just redirection. It's just pointing you in a different way. So, yeah, I mean, you are evolving to be in a new environment, to have new opportunities, to do something different. Right. And that's a really cool thing.
So when something ends, it's the birth of something new. Right. When something dies, it fertilizes the soil for something else to be born. Mm-hmm. Right. In our lives, our relationships, our businesses, the things that we take on, the tasks are all the same. All it is a vehicle for our growth. Mm-hmm. I asked our neuroscience specialist that helped us to put our program together, Integrated Mindset, right? We went line by line through this program with a neuroscience specialist that make sure everything was in alignment with neuroscience, neuropsychology, these different things. Mm-hmm. And I said, where does failure exist in neuroscience, in the brain? Mm-hmm. And because we were having this conversation, is failure an illusion, right? And I was kind of working this through, I was doing some writing about it. Like, I think failure is an illusion. I remember I was kind of all fired up about it.
Well, it was something you felt was really important to address in the program.
Yeah. So it just as a conversation for you, I believe it liberates you. When you take failure off the plate and you say, I'm just going to grow, like all of a sudden stepping out and taking action takes a lot less courage, right? Because you remove this big old obstacle of being worried about being rejected and being shamed and feeling all of this, not enoughness and worthlessness.
You're never going to protect yourself from your feelings of inadequacy, because I can promise you, if you don't take action toward the things that you want to manifest and create in your life, if you don't take action towards it, you will be living in that insecurity and unworthiness and inadequacy either way. So you can, it's like Casey Jaycock said when he was on the podcast, he said, you can either get uncomfortable on the field or be comfortable on the sideline.
And choose your hard.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. You
got to choose your hard. Right. I mean, you're not going to escape those feelings because it's part of being human. And we all have taken on meaning and things that have happened throughout our life and thought, oh, see, I'm not good enough. Like, that's going to always be a present narrative, but it's what you choose to do with that. It's how you choose to move through those feelings and take action despite, the fear of failing. One of our kids said the other day, it's not win or lose, it's win or learn.
Win or learn. Yeah. I don't know where they got that from.
So it's true. It's true though. Do you want to learn? Then you've got to take action.
Yeah. You got to step out. You got to experience. Yeah. So experience becomes like this. This is the transition into, we first talk about failure, and our next podcast we're going to record is about success, because these two it's one conversation, you guys, right? And the reality is that I love this, that we can't fail as long as we're learning the lesson. We can't fail as long as we're trying. And that failure is just a redirection, because even the answer that the neuroscience specialist gave to me after she kind of sat back in her chair a little bit, she was like, right? Where does it show up in the brain? Right. And she was like, the brain does not have a mechanism for failure. Even if there was a whole part of the brain that was like lopped off and lost, right? The brain would then work to, what did she say?
It would reorganize.
Itself, and it would adapt and redirect to overcome the loss.
Right.
So if that's what the brain is doing, and that's what nature is doing, that's what we naturally can do as well, is just adapt and redirect to overcome, which then this is the definition coming back to resilience. The rupture is necessary for the repair to become, and for you to be stronger and more resilient. Resistance is necessary. So just because we say that failure is an illusion doesn't mean resistance is still not going to be present. Resistance is going to be present.
Yeah.
Right. But we need to stop labeling it as failure, because even like being clumsy or, kind of feeling alone or whatever that may be, like whatever experience you're having, like it's for you because it's pointing to something that there's a need for growth and healing, because the version of you that gets to the other side of that aloneness or that clumsiness is stronger.
Yep.
Is more resilient. Now can give yourself that reference point that I get to the other side of it. And now look at what I can do. Right.
Yeah. I'm thinking of a great kind of a takeaway for people listening. Think about an area where you have wanted something to be different in your life and you haven't taken action. Is there a fear attached to that? Is there a fear of failure? And what could it look like if you committed to learning rather than your commitment to avoiding the discomfort of what you perceive as failure? What could that look like in your life?
Or what if we do, or just another way of saying the same thing, Heidi, is to say, what if we committed to learning rather than winning?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
We're trying to win.
That's the prize. Is the learning is the prize. The growth is the prize.
Everybody wants to win at life. Right. Want to determine what it means to win. You know, you want to win the game. You want to win the role. You want to win the identity. You're the win, the victory is the growth. Mm-hmm. Your capacity expands. What you perceive as possible, the value of which you then see in the world grows and expands, increases. What could possibly be more valuable to your human experience than that? The trophy gets dust on it. Mm-hmm. Right? The trophy breaks even. Colton has a really nice trophy. And the top broke off.
Yeah.
Right? The trophy's going to fall apart. Eventually, the trophy's going to be thrown away. But what's going to be eternal is who he had to become and experience and prepare for to receive the trophy.
Which included some failures along the way. Some lessons learned.
Lessons learned.
Right.
Yeah. It included, I would rather say it included some rupture and repair.
Right.
The building of resiliency. That's what it included. Right. So this is a conversation that we could just go round and round and circle, right? But what we want to do is we want to plant this as an idea, right? As a seed in your mind and your awareness to say, is there some way right now, like Heidi was saying, that I'm not stepping out fully because I realize that I'm just afraid of this idea of failure, right? That is actually rooted in you just not wanting to feel rejected, right? And so, good. How about we just flip the lens and just look at it from a different angle and say, if I step out, what would I potentially learn? And be committed to the growth in the process of that. And just teach yourself that you can try and you can do hard things and know that that's going to continue to create a snowball effect in your life that's going to feed back into your experience. And with every experience, you become a greater version of yourself, a greater expression. And it's experience that rewires the brain towards more confidence, towards more clarity, right?
Yep.
So if you're not experiencing new things because you're afraid of failure, you are failing. Right? That's the not trying is the failure.
Yeah. Whether you're conscious of it or not, you're experiencing the very thing that you're trying to avoid. So it's time to get emotionally uncomfortable. Yeah.
So let's lean in and we'd love to hear what you have to say about this, what you think about it. And, it's just an offering. And it's really a motivating factor for us to learn how the rest of this idea of having an integrated mindset, where we're able to integrate the inner and the outer world to create the experiences of life, the connection and the performance, the potential that we desire to actualize, right? So I urge you, I encourage you, I'm nudging you to explore. Right? To explore. You're not predetermined. You are an expansive, adaptive system. And that's why failure is an illusion, because we are systems that are adaptive systems. And so lean in, reach out, figure out how this program can help you to rewire how you perceive failure, and therefore then change how you then define success, which is where we're going in the next one, which will just drastically change your experience of life and create a whole new realm of possibilities for you that weren't open to you previously.
Yeah. And if this is opened up some new pathways in your mind and you're thinking about ways that you can improve and start really embracing life's challenges yourself, then I invite you to check out our 10-week integrated mindset program. I have a group for women starting soon, and actually very soon when this podcast drops, we may even be full. But reach out. We always have new groups starting with different coaches, and it is the fast track to really embracing what we're talking about here and integrating these practices into your life. Yeah. So thanks for listening. Thank you for listening. Remember, leaders go first. Alignment matters. And the environment that you create is the legacy you'll leave. We'll see you on the next episode.